Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to You Can't Automate Chaos. Fix these five bottlenecks before you touch AI. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a director of programs at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit improving access and knowledge and entrepreneurship to advance economic progress for all. As you're going to see in the chat in just a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to help entrepreneurs fuel prosperity, no matter where their journey begins. Be sure to check out those links and resources shared in the chat. Now, we're going to take a step back and launch a few polls to take a temperature gauge on how all of you are doing today. We use this information to guide the programs that we provide for this global community of entrepreneurs. The first one, how are you feeling about your business? Are you optimistic? Are you in survival mode? Thank you for voting. If there are any specific topics or challenges you'd like us to create resources for, please feel free to share them in the chat. We'll get right to work on them. Little more housekeeping items as we keep these polls rolling is let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. We'd love to see where everyone's joining us for our time together today. See if you have a neighbor. Virginia, Maryland, New York City, love to see it. Salt Lake City, Atlanta, Georgia, love it. Los Angeles, Chicago, all right, all over the board. Oakland, love it. Maryland, Dallas, Georgia, welcome. Fort Worth, great. So many awesome locations. Time zones all over the board. And while you're answering these last polls, I'm going to take a moment to recognize the incredible support of our corporate partners. The work we do here at the center would not be possible without all of the generosity and belief of our partners and funders, including Nasdaq, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, KPMG, Walmart, the Asia Innovation Hub, Wilson Sonsini, the Nerite Foundation, and BPM. We're deeply grateful for their partnership, and we hope you'll join us in sharing that appreciation as well. Alrighty, taking a look at these results for the last and final poll. Looks like finance is in the lead, followed by sales and marketing, and there's a good mix of some scale. Well, the good news for everyone is we're going to talk about some of these topics in our upcoming session. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest presenter. Nelly Yusupova is a founder at TechSpeak for Entrepreneurs and co-founder at Wellbeing Inc. And we are welcoming her back again to our stage. Excited to have her back. Nelly, welcome.
Hey, Colin, thank you. I'm so excited to be back. I love this community. You guys are so energetic, and I love that energy. Even though I'm not right next to you in the same room, I can feel that through the chat. So continue to participate in the chat. I'm going to try to prompt you as we are going through the presentation and keep the energy going.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay, so let me guess. You've been hearing about AI nonstop everywhere. Type yes in the chat if that's you. You're already here. That's probably the reason why. Because everywhere you look, someone's talking about automating their business, scaling with fewer people. We won't hire people at all. That's what everybody says, right? Building agents to do work for them instead of humans. Sounds amazing. And you're probably thinking, should I be doing this too? What's the best way for me to get started? Well, if you are thinking that, you are in the right room. I am going to cover all of these topics today. For those of you who don't know me, I am Nelly Yusupova. I am a fractional CTO with over 18 years of experience leading companies to technical excellence. I'm a co-founder in Wellbeing Inc., which is a startup in the health space, and TechSpeak, where I've worked with over thousands of entrepreneurs, helping them strategically implement technologies and help them minimize technology mistakes. And today, I'm going to share with you the 5 most common operational bottlenecks that I see inside of businesses like yours. Why they silently sabotage automation and AI efforts, and of course, how to fix them so you can build a business where automation actually will save you time instead of making things worse. I've seen it all. Because if you want AI to work for you, you've got to build that foundation first. So I did a session with Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center about 3 months ago, and where I covered the AI ladder. And I just wanted to do a quick rundown and a review because it's really, really important for our discussion today. So on the AI ladder here, you can see the different ways of using and leveraging AI depending on your needs. And you can ascend or descend the ladder and use any of these or any combination of any of these tools and strategies at any given time. So let's quickly go through and see where the biggest opportunities in AI right now are. So here, at the very first level, we have AI tools, prompt engineering, and custom GPTs. These will help you and your team optimize yourself and your team's abilities, right? So this is the very beginning stages of using AI. And that's where you start to speed up your daily work, streamline a lot of small tasks, and understand how AI can supercharge your productivity. So it's all about productivity. Then next, as we climb the AI ladder, you begin to automate entire workflows. This is where you can use workflow automations to cut down repetitive tasks and actually be able to free up your time from yourself and your teammates. Automations and AI agents help you make decisions based on actual instructions that you give them in real time and dynamically adjust based on the situation. Now you're not just optimizing or creating productivity gains, right? You are actually eliminating manual work. Type a yes in the chat or give me an emoji if you have so much work to do that you can actually outsource it to someone else. We should have lots and lots of yeses because, right, this is what we're doing. We're so buried with a lot of things that are manual tasks, and automations and AI agents promise to take that off our plates. They are your digital teammates that can actually take action on your behalf 24/7. They actually do the work for you. They can send your emails, qualify leads, update spreadsheets, create content, automate invoicing, do lead nurturing, take care of client onboarding, and more, right? This is what the promise of AI is. And at the very top of the ladder, we have software. That's where you can actually build something custom to eliminate tasks and also optimize your own productivity, right? But also, in addition to all of those, it allows you to create completely new revenue streams. That's the benefit of doing software. So it actually includes a lot of the productivity that we're talking about and elimination of tasks, but it also allows you to create new revenue streams. So here is where you can build solutions that can solve either your internal business problems, scale your expertise so you can help more people, and create entirely new products in the market. So this is what the AI ladder does. Most people who currently use AI are at this level, right? Either using AI tools, prompting, or GPTs. And if you're using the right tools, you're great at prompting, you can become a lot more productive and more efficient with your time. But the real time and cost savings come from the upper rungs of the ladder, right? This is where you implement automations, AI agents, and software. Because here's where you're eliminating work that you would have to do, you or your teammates. And once you set it up, the work gets done for you so you can reclaim your focus by delegating repetitive, time-consuming tasks to AI. You can scale without hiring by automating operations without the overhead of additional employees. And you can generate immediate ROI by not losing hours to those tasks that AI can perform a lot faster and, in fact, more efficiently with generally fewer errors. And of course, the most important thing is that it allows you to innovate and not administrate by freeing your time, freeing your time and your focus on strategic growth, right? So that you can work on strategic growth, have creative outlets, and more work on more creative stuff in your business and generate more revenue, right? So let's go through some AI automations and AI agent examples so that you can see what can be done, right? Let's keep moving. Well, actually, before we do that, before I show you the examples, how many of you are familiar with tools like Zapier and Make? Type your yes or an emoji in the chat, right? So Zapier and Make are tools that allow you to connect multiple services together so you can accomplish tasks. These are workflow tools. For bonus points, let's see if somebody's attended some of my workshops before. Who can tell me what makes these connections between multiple services happen? How does data from one service to the next get transferred? What is that called? API, Yasmin, you are on top of it. Not only were you answering immediately as soon as I asked it, you got the answer right. Correct. APIs is the magic sauce. They allow different services to talk to each other and send data back and forth. Okay, so let's keep moving. Let's say you have, this is an automation that I'm going to show you that you can implement. Let's say you have a new customer that pays you through Stripe. You can start an automation. This is going to be your trigger that will add this person to your MailChimp mailing list. Tag them as a customer and add them to an email sequence based on the product that they bought. You can also use the lead score tool to obtain information about your customer using the customer's email address and get back information like what business do they work for, what country they're in, how many employees does the company have. And you can save that information to a spreadsheet. And also, this is the power. You can add a rule into your workflow that says, if someone signs up from a company with more than 50 employees, send me an email so I can follow up with them personally, because this type of company with 50 employees or more is my high value customer, right? So you want to be able to follow up with them, maybe call them, right? And even better, you can also, instead of, or in addition to sending yourself an email, you can create a task in a project management tool like Trello so that task doesn't get lost in the email and you don't automatically or by accident forget to follow up, right? And all of this would be done completely, I call it automagically, without any human intervention. Once you set it up, it just runs, right? And it does all of those tasks for you. Believe it or not, these types of automations could actually be set up for many years. I think Zapier is like 10 years old at least, right? So these tools existed, but what's now possible as a result of AI is absolutely transformational. Let me show you some examples. Here you see a workflow of a lead generation and enrichment workflow that combines traditional automations with AI. And if you follow the arrows, you can see that this is a logo of ChatGPT, right? So here we are using ChatGPT AI model as part of the workflow. And instead of a human needing to evaluate that input, we're now having AI models that can do that for us. This automation captures leads, enriches them with external data, and generates insights using AI and organizes everything into a structured system, all without any human intervention. Isn't that exciting? Type yes in the chat if this is exciting for you, right? This is where a lot of the power comes from. Okay, more examples. Here we have an example of a workflow that generates blog posts, and then you can see here that we have AI processing information multiple times to produce high quality content, right? So here I think you have once we get into the AI processing, right? You prompt the first AI model to do something, send it over to the next one. The next one can review what you wrote and maybe improve it, right? And this is how you can create an entire workflow completely by AI. Here's another example of a workflow that is social media automated posting, right? So this one is pretty extensive, connecting multiple platforms and scheduling posts automatically. Very, very extensive, but I just wanted to show you different types of examples to show you what is possible. Here we have a workflow that auto labels and drafts incoming emails. And then when a new email comes in, it passes through a tool called text classifier. It does a little bit of AI magic that instantly categorizes those emails into buckets. The AI is doing the routing based on real-time interpretation of the data. Here we have an AI agent that functions as an intelligent chat assistant. And when the user sends messages like, hey, can you book me a meeting for Monday, June 20th, 2026, right? The AI agent will actually be smart enough to realize that it needs to ask for certain information, that it needs to check the date, that it needs to realize that there's a time missing and it needs to ask you for it. Again, all of this is happening without a pre-mapped workflow. The agent decides, calls the tools, and executes tasks in real time. And that's why the difference between automations and agents is that in automations, you predefine the flow, and it just goes from step to step to step. And agents completely and autonomously make the decisions, do the work, and they are the true intelligent decision-making machines, basically, right? Everything happens in real time. So these are some of the agents that I've built that I wanted to also share with you, so you can understand what is possible with these tools. Leads with an intent agent, right? Scans social platforms in real time, flags hot prospects, and compresses hours of research into minutes. We have a viral content agent that will scrape top performing posts, extract audience insights, and will turn them into viral ready scripts. We also have a multi-channel sales agent that will source and qualify leads, personalize messaging to the people that it needs to send messages to, and launch an outreach campaign across different platforms like email, LinkedIn, and more. And finally, content strategist agent. This agent will transform raw ideas into polished, channel-optimized posts that are going to be ready to publish across multiple platforms. So, how many of you think that automations and AI agents are exciting? Drop an emoji in the chat. How many of you think that they are exciting? How many of you think that they're daunting? You can put an emoji for that, right? They are exciting, but sometimes it's both, right? I see some people saying both. Well, the idea and the reason why I think it's so exciting for a lot of business people and founders is that the idea of cutting down repetitive tasks and reclaiming your time is a complete game changer. But this is what I see on a daily basis as a fractional CTO. And when I walk into companies, I see that same thing over and over again. No systems or broken systems. The sales process lives in someone else's head. The onboarding checklist is in Google Docs from 2021, and no one's really sure where the latest version of that client deck is. Raise your hand if this is you, right? When your business systems are a mess, broken, or non-existent, automation is just simply not possible. You cannot automate chaos. And if your business processes are messy, disorganized, or unrefined, automating them isn't going to magically make things better. In fact, it'll do the opposite. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. You're just going to get that mess bigger and faster, right? And so automation, I call it like a magnifying glass. If your processes are clean and efficient, automation will make them even smoother. If your processes are chaotic, automation will multiply that chaos. Okay? Raise your hand in the chat and just say yes if you think your automations or your business or your company currently has amazing systems. Let's see how many people will say yes. Yasmin says yes. Shivani says yes, right? So a lot of, well, we have 2 yeses and a bunch of people saying no, right? So what I want to do today and for the rest of the session, I want to talk about the top 5 most common operational bottlenecks that will prevent automations from working and how to fix each one. Because you have to do this work before you can even get to the exciting parts that we all just talked about, that we all wanted, right? So these are based on patterns that I've seen inside startups, scale-ups, and even funded teams. Fixing just one can help you unblock a lot of growth, but fixing all 5, that's when you're ready to automate with confidence. So let's look at bottleneck number 1. Unrefined, bad, or no processes, right? So this one is pretty obvious, right? We just talked about this. So how do you fix it? You fix it with doing 3 things. You have to start with picking one repeatable process. And if you don't have a process at all, you start with writing it down, right? Using a pen and paper or a whiteboard. Here's what that looks like. You will start to basically, if you don't have a process right now, how would you like, or what are the steps that I am doing every single day to complete this task or to complete this step in my workflow, right? So you need to write down all the details of a specific process, right? And an example of a process could be sending a proposal, onboarding of a client, how do we have meetings, right? All of this stuff. So pick one repeatable process, map it step by step, and then you start to identify decisions, identify what tools you're using, any handoffs between different people, and what are some of the friction points, right? So the first thing you're doing when creating systems is to get it out of your head and put it down on paper. Okay, so you can do that pen and paper. You can use flow charting tools like Lucidchart or Miro or Figma, whatever. There's a zillion flow charting tools, right? But you can start with pen and paper. This is how easy it is to get started. So bottleneck number 2, lack of role and clarity and ownership. So even before automation enters the picture, things will break down when no one owns that process. So you didn't assign a specific person to it or a person who is responsible for that process. Here's what I see all the time. A task gets skipped and no one even notices it, right? Because there's no process. People assume someone else is handling it. And when ownership is vague, no one is accountable for specific key steps in the process, that's when things will fall through the cracks. And inconsistency, as we are learning, is enemy of automation. Okay. Zakel, what is number 2? That's we're right now on bottleneck number 2. So lack of role and ownership, right? So how do we fix this? We make sure that it is crystal clear who owns each step of the process, right? So we talked about creating this type of a map, right? And then you're going to assign for each of the steps, depending on what it is, right? Who is going to be responsible for it? Who does what, right? So you start to add the details. And it's also very, very important for you to update these rules as they change, right? So Zakel, it's right now, there's on the slide, bottleneck number 2. Do you guys see that? Yes. Okay. So Zakel, maybe there's something wrong with what you're seeing, but it is on the slide right now. Okay. Yes. There's just the title, and I was just explaining to you. It's simply adding roles and ownership to this work that you're starting with defining the process. Okay. Great. Any questions so far about anything that we covered? Great. So let's keep moving. Bottleneck number 3 is inconsistent or messy data. Okay, this is a big one. When it comes to AI or automation, data is king. I'm sure you've heard everybody say that. Everybody talks about data. And if your data is inconsistent, it is unstructured, or it's incomplete, you are setting yourself up for failure. There's an old expression in tech called garbage in, garbage out. So if you have to make sure that, you'll have to make sure that your data is consistent across all of the tools. For example, if your customers and client names are misspelled across different tools, you will have issues later. Okay. Like when you're entering, a lot of this data inconsistency happens when people enter information into the tools that you're using. And so let's say sometimes you put Mr. John Smith in one tool, and in another tool you put in Jonathan Smith, right? They're 2 different names as far as tech is concerned. So that's what I mean by having consistent data or misspelled across different tools. Or if your team leaves important field blank, right? So let's say sometimes you require an address and sometimes you don't. And if you are going to be using the address in any of your automations, that's going to be a problem when you don't have that data, right? So you have to be able to have all of your required fields, or the fields that are going to be important for you in your automations, right? You want to be able to have that data be defined and also very well specified, okay? Another example is when you have data spread across multiple tools. Raise your hand if this is you. I see this so much. Sometimes some of your data is in Notion, some of it is in Google Sheets, some of it is on paper, and who knows wherever else, right? You took a note on a sticky note and it's now lost, right? You know what I'm talking about. So automation requires clean, structured, and consistent data. Otherwise, it will break. And even worse is it will produce results that you can't trust. And you have to be able to trust the system that you are putting all of this information into. Otherwise, your automation is just going to add more work to you rather than you are outsourcing it to AI. Okay, does that make sense? Excellent. All right, so bottleneck number 4. Bottleneck number 4 is no visibility into what's working. So a lot of founders are running their businesses based on feel. There's no data to show whether their processes are effective, repeatable, or even being followed. And without visibility, you can't actually improve and define what you can't automate, right? So automation isn't just about saving time, it's about scaling what works. So you have to have systems that are tested, right? That you can then improve by outsourcing it. So let's say you have a process and it's really bad and you haven't optimized it. Now you automated it. You're going in the wrong direction twice as fast, right? Because automation will take over and now you can move a lot faster and process information a lot faster, but you have no good process. So that's why it's important to, when you're creating systems, make sure that you have a way that you can measure and improve the systems before you jump into automation. Okay, so that involves understanding like some baseline metrics. How long does a task usually take? Where do things get stuck? What actually drives results? And then automating that process is just locking in that success, right? So that you're not just guessing. Okay. Any questions as we're going through this? I want to make sure that you are still with me before we cover bottleneck number 5. Okay, great. Okay, so bottleneck number 5 is disconnected systems and tools. So this one is sneaky because on paper, it looks like you've got everything set up. You've got a CRM, your project management software, your invoicing tool, your proposal tool, maybe even a client portal, right? You have a lot of things in all the pieces all set, but the question is, do they work together in a defined and intentional system? Or are you and your team just jumping between tools and hoping for the best, right? So what I see constantly is different people using different tools for the same thing. No single place where information lives, no agreed upon workflow for how tools should be used, or just simply manually copying and pasting because the system lives in someone's head, right? So they create their own systems on little sticky notes so that they can just copy and paste when they need that information. So automation cannot solve all of that at all. So it can connect tools, but if you haven't clearly defined how they should work together, right, actually created a process for how your business should work, then you can't automate anything. You have to be smart and strategic about how you're going to automate and create systems. So you need to define what is your main system of record for each area of your business, right? Where does each process start and where does it end? How does information move between tools and where does it break? Map all of that out first before you try to automate it. Okay, so clearly the message here is before you think about plugging in automations, you need to do the groundwork. You need to define your processes, map them out, understand each step, eliminate inefficiencies so you can cut the fat before you speed things up. And you need to standardize operations to make sure it is repeatable and predictable. Because once you've done that work, you'll be very clearly be able to see where AI can help and where AI automation will fit best, right? So to optimize what's working, streamline what's slowing you down, or even completely outsource parts of the workflow with automation or AI agents. I'm going to show you an example. Somebody, I think, asked for an example. Here's a workflow planning map for an AI content strategies workflow. Here, this gives you a bird's eye view of every single step, every decision point, and every handoff in your business process, right? So once you create the high level and optimize it, then you can say, oh, you know what? I should use this tool for this specific thing, this process for this specific thing. And oh, you know what? AI is going to be really good at that. So I'm going to outsource this part to AI, but I'm also going to have a human in the loop to review it. Okay. So, so this is how you build this system for every one of your processes in your business. In phase one here, we can clearly see where we define how the data will be captured to establish a clean and organized entry point for the data. In phase two, we define how the content will be processed, structured, and refined to automate the heavy lifting of the content creation with structured and repeatable steps. And in phase three, we have the human review, right? As Jennifer mentioned, the human review is there for quality assurance. This is your safety net to catch errors, adjust for nuance, and make sure that everything aligns with your brand and voice, and store that content before you store and publish that content to the world. Okay, so it's really, really important for you to do that foundational work so that you can see this, right? And then you can decide strategically what is your level of tolerance for risk, right? And you can even in stages outsource some pieces to AI, see how it works, and then do more. And that's why, like, this is also your documentation map for everything that's happening in your business. And you can double click on each one of these and go deeper into sub-processes, etc. But you as a business, once you understand and create a system for how things work in your business, right, then and only then you can say, and a lot of companies realize that, oh my gosh, we're using 10 different tools that are doing the same thing because we haven't standardized anything. And each one of our employees decided that they needed this tool to do their work. So without systems and processes, you can't move forward, right? And this is the big thing that I see that is really important for everyone to do. So being able to effectively plan automations is a critical factor to their success. Automating bad processes will not save you time. It'll just help you accelerate inefficiencies and create a lot more chaos. So first, create effective systems, map them out, and then determine what steps in the process could and should be automated. Just because you can automate something doesn't mean you should. Who can tell me why? Sometimes you shouldn't automate something. What would be the reason? Let's think critically. What would be the reason why you can automate something, but you shouldn't? Yeah, Tim says bad process, human touch, but think beyond that. Empathy points. Some things require human review. Nope. There's one specific thing that when we evaluate, should we let AI do it? And that's cost, right? So you have to decide, like, let's say it's a tiny little operation, but it's going to cost you a lot more money than to have a human do it even, right? Then you strategically say, well, you know what, we shouldn't automate this because it makes no sense, no financial sense. So just because you can automate something doesn't mean you should. So having a mapped out process, right? Having a mapped out process gives you the power to decide when and how and why something will be automated. And guess what? When you do this work, you know, AI is moving so quickly. In the next 6 months, we could have new capabilities, new tools that will allow us to automate more stuff, right? Now you have your map and you can say, well, you know, I used to automate it this way. Now I'm going to do it a different way, use a different tool, do different things, right? So this is what's going to give you the power to also scale. All right. So before we jump into the Q&A, I have a question for you. what would it mean for you and your business if you had systems running in the background powered by automations in AI, giving you back 10, 15, or even 20 hours a week? What would it mean for your business? Type your answer in the chat. Freedom, Natasha says. Scaling, life-changing, right? More joy, more successful. As a solopreneur, it would be amazing. Absolutely. This is what I keep hearing from people. This is what, like, creating all of the stuff that we talked about is going to set you up for that success. So think about that. And I want you to prioritize some of this stuff for year 2026. Okay. And for those of you who want some guidance in actually doing this, I am launching on January 19th my very first cohort where I'm guiding somebody, my students, live in 6 weeks to actually get that. I'm going to teach you in week 1 how to map your core processes, week 2 how to cut the clutter, optimize your workflows, and then decide what is possible with AI. And then we're going to, this is geared towards non-technical people. I'm going to teach you the language of automation. And then I'm going to teach you in week 4 how to actually launch your first automation. We'll also talk about AI agents. I'm going to give you some of the agents that you can customize and then launch them at the end of week 5. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how to scale your automations operating system. It is live. I'm going to be there with you all the way through. And if anyone wants to join, I wanted to extend a special discount code. Right now, you can get $300 off for early bird. But since you guys are here, use this code Nasdaq 500 to get $500 off. And the website is techspeak.co, AI-agents. I'd love to see you, some of you there. But even if you don't join this cohort, start prioritizing this work because it's going to help, like we said, create more freedom. And most importantly, I think why I am so excited about this for you is because it will allow you to focus on the things that matter more, right? So if you're a solopreneur, somebody said they were a solopreneur, now you're doing all the admin work, but if some of that work was offloaded, you would have more time to go get more clients, right? And that's the benefit and the power of doing some of this stuff and not just focusing on productivity, AI for productivity, but going beyond that. So with that, let's do some Q&A.
Awesome, Nelly. Great job.
You are welcome.
Lots of good stuff, and I am sure there's lots and lots of questions, so drop them into the Q&A box so we don't get them lost in the chat, y'all, but let's just get started. And if you want to stop sharing your screen so everyone can see your smiling
Yes.
face, that's awesome. Great.
There we
All
go.
right. Let's see. Can you speak to the security aspect of connecting all these tools and allowing AI to have access to your systems?
Absolutely. That is the #1 question I get asked from people. So a lot of these tools, believe it or not, are they are being from the companies like Zapier and Make.com and a lot of the tools that we're using and connecting them, they've been around for years, right? So they're required and they all have all the compliance and all of the stuff. So you're already using their tools. All the data that goes into the cloud that you're now storing it, this is already out in the cloud and everybody has access to it. So if you trust the company, right? If you trust the company with your data by using their tools, you can then use them to connect it to other services, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, if really it's very important, security and all of this stuff is really important, you can host your own AI models locally and manage it yourself. But as a fractional CTO, I can tell you, most businesses do not have security levels of these companies that you're afraid are going to do something with your data, right? Or leak the data. You're not going to do as good of a job as them. So if you do take on this responsibility of hosting your own AI locally, which is possible, you have to also take the security precautions that are necessary to protect your data.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, if you want to host your own, there's there's a lot there. What are your favorite platforms to build agents, and what are your recommendations for prompting it to scan prospects?
Okay, so there's a lot of tools that where you can build agents, and different types of agents have different use cases, right? So I always, whenever people ask me about tools, the very first question I ask them is, what problem are you solving? And then based on that, you will decide what tool you should be using for the problem that you're trying to solve. There's a lot of drag and drop tools right now that will allow you to create agents. They're easy, but they're also basic. But if you need something more complex, more streamlined, more connected, then you use more integrated tools. Like the most complex one is called N8N, letter N, number 8, and they have a terrible name. N8N.com. That's the tool that I'm going to be also teaching at this cohort. Make.com is another one that we're going to be covering in the cohort. And then there's a lot of other tools, specialized tools that allow you to solve problems in sales, for example, or marketing, or something else, right? So, but they're also much more limited to what you can do. And I think the one thing we should keep in mind as this AI space gets developed is like have this mindset that I can buy a bunch of tools, or I can, and then adjust my workflow to work with those tools, but I also can create the workflow that I want and now have the ability to very quickly, without writing any code, to customize it to work exactly how I want. And that's the exciting part for me, is that now this AI opened up the floodgates for a lot of non-technical people, because I've worked with for decades now with non-technical people, and it's never been this accessible. You always had to work with a tech person to be able to do this stuff. But now I can, in 6 weeks, can teach a complete newbie, non-techie, to be able to use these tools, right? Because a lot of them are no code.
Yeah,
And so you know and understand the basic and fundamentals, you can do this yourself.
love that. Ooh. Question here. Can an AI agent be used to compensate remote employees based on deadlines/benchmarks?
Um, if we define the requirements, right? So again, we have to start with, okay, what are the steps that we have to follow to be able to accomplish this task, right? So you break down the step, and my answer is probably yes, right? So you have, and even if you can't directly using some of these tools, you can now use AI coding agents to build something. Like that's on the ladder, on the AI ladder. Software is the next thing, where you can actually build a custom solution very quickly to be able to do some of this stuff. So it's such an exciting time for a non-technical person to be able to
Yeah,
do some of this stuff. I'm excited.
I love it. Let's see. What can a startup entrepreneur, solopreneur expect to spend on AI automation over 1 year?
So it depends on what you're going to be doing, right? So every single time you deploy a service, that's going to cost money. And so uh, the one thing that you have to be always conscious of, okay, so if I automate this and I'm going to be running this 10 times versus 150,000 times, right? The costs are going to be different. But then you also have to layer in the salaries that you might be eliminating by not paying someone. So salaries are not inexpensive, right? So if you pay somebody $50,000 a year and your AI costs are 30, even 45, right? Now you're almost like you're okay, even just spending that seemingly large number on AI services, but you've eliminated and are now not paying somebody $50,000 a year to do this menial work. You can hire different employees to help you maybe do sales or maybe more marketing or whatever it is, right? But not doing admin work. And what I also found is that if you set these up really well, you can actually reduce error. These AI agents and automations work 24/7. they don't need days off. They don't have vacations off, right? So like there's a lot of that, and you're not paying them benefits and all this other stuff. So that's how you should be evaluating services, because now we're talking about someone not doing that work that you have to pay them to do that.
Amazing. Another question here that came through the chat. Do you recommend Notion to have all the notes, meetings, and business plan, etc.?
I do. I love Notion. I have created an operating system within it. And you know what? I came to terms with the fact that, hey, if I ran a Notion locally, there's no guarantee that nobody can break into my computer, right? Like
Hmm.
most people are actually not securing their computers as well as they should. Most break-ins happen locally and not through the services that where we're hosting. And so just like everything else, if you don't want it to be stolen, don't put it on the internet. That goes with that. So if you have something that is so super secretive, you shouldn't put it online anywhere, not even Notion, but not probably not even to your computer, because
Yeah.
somebody can break into it, especially if you go to Starbucks and go on their Wi-Fi, unsecured
Hmm.
Wi-Fi. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Airport
cool.
Wi-Fi's too. Be careful with those ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. What are some non-negotiable things you recommend every business owner automate? It's a general question, but
Uh, every business owner to what? Oh,
automate.
automate. Uh, I think I wouldn't I wouldn't prescribe like you have to automate everything. I think most business people need to start documenting systems, creating systems, and that's a precursor to automation. So most people like don't even have systems, as we talked about, right? And so if you are a business person and you don't have any systems, this is where you should start. You shouldn't be spending money on tech when you know it's not going to work, right? What I generally do, and this is what we're going to evaluate in the cohort, is actually making a list of all the things that you're doing, and then uh, pulling the high value automations. These are the things that will give you like the 80-20 rule, 80% of the benefit for like if you just implemented that one thing that will make the biggest impact for your business. And that's how I would look at it, is list all of your things that you're doing on a daily basis that are manual, and say, okay, if I eliminated this, that will give me the most amount of time in a day to free me up to do more high value work. That's how I would look at it. I don't prescribe with every business should be doing this,
No, yeah,
should be
yeah.
using tools. It's always, what problem do I want to solve, and how can I use technology to do that, and what is the right tool, the right structure, the right team, whatever else comes from the fact that you've defined what's important to you, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. And I think there's like a little bit of a philosophical argument that like went back to like early stage startups back in the day. It's like find out what you're really good at and then hire for what you're not good at or don't like doing, right? So like I think this kind of moves into that same almost category, right? Like what do you have to
Absolutely,
do
yeah.
that you could automate that you aren't good at or don't
A
enjoy?
lot of, and if I had to say anything, like the AI agents that I showed, that I created, and we're going to be talking about and how to implement in a cohort, were
Mhm.
specifically in marketing and sales, because I think like those are the things that bog down a lot of people, and everybody needs to do it. Now every company is a media company, right? So if you had someone do the research for you on the most like high performing content in your space, and have an agent do that and bring that to you, right? So you're still writing your own stuff, maybe using ChatGPT to help you, but you're already so much more focused on doing that work. And so I think marketing and sales are probably the most things that are being automated right now, that a lot of businesses, no matter who you are, could benefit from.
Yeah, awesome. Speaking of marketing and sales, this question has to do a little bit with that. What do you recommend for a business that's mostly relationship based?
So with relationship based businesses, I would use AI to keep track of who I need to follow up with, do some research on, like, you know, it's the touch points. You need the 7 touch points. How can you tell AI to go, let's say, you know, this person is interested in X, Y, and Z. Instead of you doing the research and finding the articles on those topics, maybe you create an AI agent that will go through your CRM, find the people you need to connect with. It'll go out and scour for information that you can send them, and then send it to them. And you're doing that all completely on autopilot, but you have to do that structural thinking of what's possible initially. But yeah, almost everything that you're doing now could be automated, right? The human to human is the only thing that shouldn't be automated, but everything else that you're doing beyond that could be automated.
That's great advice. Oh, Nelly, we could spend hours with you, but you do have that masterclass workshop coming up, so I'm sure everyone is excited about that, and thank you for the discount. But we are time for that. We're reaching time for that golden nugget takeaway. So if somebody was going to dial into the last 90 seconds of this call, what would you tell them? Did you freeze? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, no, yeah. What's one golden takeaway
Oh,
for
I
our
thought you were
audience?
asking them. I was looking at the
Oh,
chat.
no. You're looking at the chat. I thought you froze.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the chat to see what they
No,
were
all
typing.
good.
Okay, golden nugget takeaway for everyone is to um, use AI strategically. I think, like, now everybody's everywhere you look, it's all hype. You can do this and you can do X, Y, and Z, and then you try it and you're like, not worth it, right? So really understanding what are the problems you're trying to solve, and then go out and find the solution, and figure out how AI can help you. That's the route I would go, like, and start with systems, basically.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for contributing time and expertise. And the chat is exploding with not takeaways, but thank yous. This was great and everything all along the way. So, thank you so much, Nelly, for joining us today.
You are welcome.
And for those of you on, we have a lot more webinars on the agenda, so you can check them out by using the link in the chat. We're also going to follow up with this recording and more resources for all of you. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you all back online with us soon. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Nelly.
Have a great day, guys.